Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the always informative, always entertaining, The Boxing Authorities. Joining me at the desk, as always, Luther Dupree Jr., Smoking Jim Frazier, and my name is Claudio Relsano. We have a very, very special guest today. He is a veteran boxer of 106 fights. 67 wins. He fought such Hall of Famers, some great fighters. Hector Macho Camacho 2 times, and even knocked him down. Julio Cesar Chavez, Meldrick Taylor, just to name a few. He's also the founder and CEO of a very prestigious, just a great organization, the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. And he's had such great inductees as Donnie Lalonde, Buster Douglas, the Spinks brothers. So welcome to the show, Craig Houck from Indiana. Craig, thank you so much for being on the show.
How you doing today? How you doing, man? How you guys doing? I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be here, and I want to thank everybody for inviting me to the show.
All right, well, thank you for taking time to being on, brother. Thank you. You know what?
Well, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I started this in 2018 at my hotel at the Holiday Inn in Carmel, where I had the facilities to do the Hall of Fame, host the Hall of Fame. And my first guy to go get was a guy named Marvin Johnson.
Yeah.
I can remember in 1971 at the Civic Center. I was 7 years old, and fighting on that card was Lamont Lovelady and Marvin Johnson. And they were in my dressing room, and I could hear the mitts going off, and it sounded like bombs. And I thought, well, you know what, man, this is pretty exciting stuff. And then I went there and watched the fight, and Marvin Johnson was a 1972 bronze medal winner. And is a 3-time light heavyweight world champion. 1978, he knocked out Matt Parloff, who was a gold medal winner in 72. Marvin fought at 165. Matt Parloff fought at 178. And then, years later in 1978, he goes over and knocks out Matt Parloff for the light heavyweight world championship, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then he loses to a guy named Matthew Saad Muhammad or Matthew Franklin. Who was a great fighter. And then he rematches. He has a fight with Victor Galindez for the WBA title, and he knocks out Victor Galindez for the light heavyweight championship of the world. So, that's why I've been a Marvin Johnson fan, and that's why I put Marvin Johnson in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame, the first five fighters: Marvin Johnson, Layman Brewster, Tony Zale from Gary, Indiana. Tony Zale, Gary, Indiana. Fred Burns and George DeFavis with the Golden Glove. So all 5 of those guys were my first 5 inductees, and Marvin Johnson is our franchise.
You know what? You mentioned some great names there. As soon as you say those names, it just conjure up a lot of memories. To jump around here, so forgive me. Do you see that? You're obviously a boxing historian. Do you see that today, 30 years from now, from boxing fans? Will they say that about some of the fighters today? Like, as soon as you say Marvin Johnson, I think about something. Tony Zell, Graziano, Matthew Saad Muhammad, all those guys. Do you see that down the road with boxers today?
I see it, I see it at some point, but I don't see it. It's hard, what I'm saying, to stay at that level and keep people at that level. So I would say, yes, we can do it, but it's rare. That's what I want to say. It's rare.
Now, real quick,
very rare.
Why, before we get into your boxing career, since we started with the Hall of Fame, why did you start the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame, and how hard was it to get it off the ground?
Well, it was very hard to get it off the ground because nobody believed I could get Marvin Johnson. Nobody thought I could get Marvin Johnson. So to get it started, we had a bunch of guys, Fred Burns, Keith Boggs, and a bunch of us. We'd sit around and the Golden Gloves, the George DeFavis, and we'd always talk about different things that we wanted to do or try. And I said, I'm going to start the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. And I asked everybody right then, does anybody want to pitch in any money? Does anybody want to help try and get this started? And there wasn't one volunteer. Wow. So I took it all on my own. I put $8,000 on myself and did an event, and I think I made $9,000. But I'm going to tell you right now, I went and got Marvin Johnson. I told him, look, I'm that boy, when you was 7 years old and when you fought Lamont Lovelady. And then I started making sense to him. And then it was years later, in 1986, I came back to Indiana and started fighting in the Golden Gloves. And I walked into Marvin Johnson's, Champ Chaney's gym, and I told them who I was and everything, and they give me a chance. And then I won the gloves in 1988 and 86. And so I fought in the Golden Gloves myself here in Indiana. So that's when I rekindled with Marvin Johnson. But, Marvin struggles now. He's a retired, he's with the sheriff's department. He struggles now, but not struggles, but he's retired. So Marvin's just now goes to the events. My job is try to get people into higher Hall of Fames and try to get them as much recognition as I can possible. So we got Marvin Johnson in the National Boxing Hall of Fame in California, and we also got him in Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame as well.
Sure.
Along with so I'm just trying to help guys get at higher levels.
Good.
Right. Listen, Craig, it's very honorable what you're doing. I'm glad that you're keeping the sport alive by starting this Hall of Fame. I want to go back to your career. Now, you fought Hector Camacho, one of my favorite fighters. What was that experience like? You knocked him down, but a very exciting fighter.
The first time I fought him, I don't mean to interrupt, the first time I fought him was in Madison Square Garden in 1996. And if you remember right, that was the night of the riot with Riddick Bowe and Andrew Galata.
Oh, right.
Wow. Right? Yeah, that was the same night. The same night I was in Madison Square Garden. Steve Canton worked my corner as a cut man. And then, I fought Camacho. And George Foreman was one of the commentators as the fight. Yeah. And it was a great night. And I had hit Camacho with a couple combinations in the first round. In the second round, he hit me with an uppercut, and it split my lip, and I had to end up getting 17 stitches, so I couldn't continue. And then I fought the rematch in 2003, and that was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, at the Macho Time of the Creek down there at the Casino Creek there in Fort Lauderdale, and that's when I dropped him in round one. And, I ran across the ring as fast as I could, and I kept running around the ring. And I almost had him out. I'm going to be honest with you. I should have kept my punches a lot shorter and crisper. In the first round, I would have had him, but I threw nothing but haymakers. And, with his experience, and, he fought Trinidad and Chavez and some of the greatest fighters, his experience, he was able to withstand the storm. Because that's what makes him great, So Hector Camacho, great fighter, great man. And I'm going to tell you another thing Camacho told me, and I'm going to tell this to everybody in the whole world. He told me, if you do not blow your own horn, nobody's going to blow it for you.
There you go.
And that perfectly made sense to me why he would put Muhammad Ali's dresser, they would be fire, and he could outdress anybody, he could outfashion anybody. Muhammad Ali was ashamed of that. Don't get me wrong, Ali had more game. But as far as his fashion model designer would have been fired. Camacho would have beat his fashion model. In a minute. This guy would come out with some of these outfits, and it was amazing, And funny thing about
that's something that I think that is kind of missing today in sports, period. We talk about all the time, the personalities. You mentioned Camacho, Vinny Pazienza, the Prince Hassim Hamed. Yeah. Muhammad didn't come out with the wardrobe, but he was who he was and how he promoted the fights. Nowadays, like Deontay Wilder, I like him and respect him, but the one fight against Fury, he didn't say a word. You just miss that.
He walked out there with that outfit, and he couldn't play the game. You know what I'm saying?
He did come out with the outfit.
He couldn't walk the walk and talk the talk. But listen, Deontay Wilder's still a great puncher, he's a great fighter, and Tyson Fury is one of the greatest heavyweights, right now. But I don't know if he'll be of all time, but he's one of the greatest heavyweights through in a long time. And he's a breath of fresh air to the sport.
Yes,
because it gives the heavyweights, if you remember right, we used to do Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, all the smaller weights got more attention, but now heavyweights are starting to get the attention that they used to back in the early days in the 70s and 80s, which is, back in the day when Ali and Frazier and Norton and, Chuck Webner, all those guys, Ernie Shavers, all those guys when they were top dogs. Right. So they're starting to get some recognition. So that's what I like that he brings back for boxing. It might not be as good as those guys, correct, but at least they're getting the top attention now that they used to. They used to get back. Yeah, that's what I give him credit for.
Right.
Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, because Wilder's got that punching power that everybody wants to see.
Right. Everybody loves those big knockouts.
Yeah, they want to see a knockout, man. I'm telling you right now, they want to see a knockout.
Hey, another guy that you fought, Meldrick Taylor. Let's
Meldrick
talk about him.
Taylor.
I don't think he gets enough. Some people get some.
No,
great
no,
boxers
he don't get
lost.
enough respect. He doesn't get enough respect. He had probably the fastest hands that I ever faced from an orthodox style. Now, southpaw would be obviously Camacho, but from an orthodox style, Meldrick Taylor had very fast hands, was very, very good fighter, hard to hit, deceptive, So and I fought Meldrick in 1994 at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the very first show ever at the MGM Grand.
Wow.
Listen to this, Meldrick Taylor, Craig Howe, Felix Trinidad, Hector Camacho, Julio Cesar Chavez, Frankie Randall, Christy Martin fought on there, and so did Tommy Hearns.
Wow.
They all fought on that card.
Jeez.
Same card.
The same
Yeah,
card?
great card.
Wow.
Yeah, all on the same card.
Was that a Don King promotion, or who? Do you remember who?
I
promoted
believe
that?
it was Don King. It was Don King. Nobody does it like Don King.
That's for sure.
That is a heck of a
Say what they
card.
want about him. How about he's 91 years old and he's still promoting? I just went to his fight there in Freedom Ring, and they're in Miami. I went to his fight before that in Miami, and I put Don King in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame in 2022. He is the greatest promoter, in my humble opinion, that I've ever seen.
And that is a hell of a card right there.
Yeah,
but
that's
figures that Don King would do that. Now, you also fought Julio Cesar Chavez. Tell us about that experience. And was he as great as reported? Can you hear us?
Are you guys back? Can y'all hear you?
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
good
I said
now,
you
yes.
fought.
Hello?
Yes, we got you. You fought Julio
Okay, I
Cesar.
apologize.
That's okay.
Angel Man Freddy was calling me at the wrong time.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I'm not going to answer this one. This was Snowell.
He's another one, Angel Man
Snowell,
Freddy.
who worked at Tyson's corner.
Yep.
When
Fought Buster.
he got knocked out in 1990 by Buster Douglas, which was the biggest upset in boxing history.
Yes.
So I wanted to make sure we put Buster Douglas in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. We fought here twice. We put him in with Rick Enos. We put him with another guy who was 12-2, and we tried to get him beat back then. You know what I'm saying? So Buster Douglas passed the test, and passed all the tests in 1990 when he knocked out Mike Tyson in round 10. You got to remember, in round 8, he was down maybe for 10 seconds, maybe 11 seconds. It doesn't make no difference. At the end of the day, here's what I try to tell people.
Thank you.
When I'm on the ground, do you think I'm listening to anybody but the referee? And if the referee tells me 9, I'm going to get up. When he tells me 9, I'll get up.
Good point.
It doesn't matter if it was 10, if it was 12, if it was 13. When he tells me to get up at 10, I'm up. I beat the count. Unfortunately, the count might have been slow, but that's boxing. What can we say?
You know what?
I mean, it is what it is, right? My only job is to answer to the referee. It's not to answer to the fans or the corners or the biased peoples. It's to answer to the referee. And Buster Douglas got up at the count of 9, and in round 10, he knocked Mike Tyson out.
He sure did.
was
I
amazing.
love Buster, but you go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
you
glad
got to give the guy
said that.
credit.
I'm glad you said that because me and Claudia always talk about how long Buster Douglas was on the canvas, and I'm
Yeah,
glad
and
you
it's
mentioned that.
true. He might have been down 12 seconds. He might have been. It
Hey,
doesn't
but
make any
the ref-
difference.
hey, but
He's
the
the only
referee-
man in history to get knocked out and get up and knock Mike Tyson out.
Yes.
So I mean, give the guy credit. This year we put John Johnson as manager in the Indiana
Yeah,
Boxing Hall of Fame. We put JD, which was his trainer, which happened to be his uncle, all in the Hall of Fame this year. Because that story is precedented. Nobody's been able to match that story. Nobody's been able to match exactly what happened that night. It was called greatness, and we got to give it to Buster Douglas that night. Now, was his career great? Was it consistent? Maybe not at the level that everybody wanted, but for one night,
He was unstoppable.
Buster Douglas shocked the world.
That's for sure.
Another guy that's in the Hall of Fame, and I think it's a great boxing family, the Spinks family. You have Michael Spinks in the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame.
I got Michael Spinks in. He was 31-1 with 21 knockouts. I got Leon Spinks. He fought in Gary, Indiana. I got put Leon in as well. I put Michael in as the celebrity/legend Hall of Fame. He's an inductee. How about this guy, Harold Brazier,
Yeah, I
105 and
remember Bill
18.
Brazier. Yeah.
Marty Jack Lebowski. You think about some of the guys from Indiana. Layman Brewster, the first person to
Layman
knock
Brewster.
out Klitschko.
That's right.
Yes, that's right.
2004,
I was another
WBO
big
heavyweight
upset.
champion of the world.
Now, you also have Donnie Lalonde. Oh,
Donnie.
before we go to Donnie,
The
Julio
Golden
Cesar
Boy. I'm going to
Chavez.
tell you why I put the Golden Boy in. Donnie Lalonde came to Indiana and was signed with Pete Susans. Donnie Lalonde was unfortunately a shining star that went on to higher level and left Pete Susans behind. But Donnie Lalonde knocked out a couple guys from Indiana here. And, when he won the light heavyweight world championship, you got to give the guy credit. Donnie Lalonde was nicknamed the Golden Boy.
Right.
And that's where I got my nickname, the Golden Boy. It was after Donnie Lalonde.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I asked Donnie Lalonde to come in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame, he was so pleasant. And that, you got to remember, this was in 2020. And in 2020, we had the coronavirus.
Sure.
I'm the only Hall of Fame that went in 2020. That's why I was number one in the nation, because I called all the rest of the guys a bunch of sissies that didn't want to go through with it. Look, man, I'm risking it all. I've been rolling the dice since 18. I'm risking it all. We're going.
Wow.
And we had over 175 people at the event, and we had a great event. And we had Donnie Lalonde, who actually got there on airplane somehow from – I don't know how he got there. He needed to buy clothes when he got to Indiana.
Yeah, he doesn't wear a lot out there.
Yeah, he just walked on, said I had an emergency, and somehow he got over here. And I got to give Donnie Lalonde credit, and his daughter and his wife, great people, amazing people. He fought here in Indiana. Anybody that fought in Indiana deserves in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. So we have a guy named Muhammad Ali. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He did the Black Expo here, and he brought Floyd Mayweather over here at age 16 in the Indiana Black Expo.
Wow.
Yeah, the Indiana Black Expo is big, historical over here. So that's where we bring in the amateur fighters that end up being pro. Muhammad Ali goes in this year. He brings over the biggest event. Here in Indiana. So we were putting Muhammad Ali in this year. Obviously, he won't be there, but, we'll get his award to him at the Muhammad Ali camp there in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
It's his training. Yeah, the Muhammad Ali camp. Yes.
We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back with you because you're giving us a lot of great stuff. So make sure you guys come back to the Boxing Authorities.
Hey, I'm trying.
Welcome back to the Boxing Authorities. We have a great guest on, a veteran of 106 fights, 67 wins, the founder and CEO of the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. He's giving us some great stuff,
stories.
Mr. Craig Houck. Craig, you were talking about Muhammad Ali, finished up with him. Now, before we go more into the Boxing Hall of Fame, you fought Julio Cesar Chavez, legend. Was he as great as people say he was? You were in the ring with him, so you know.
About that fight. We're at the United Center in Chicago. And I'm coming to the ring. And this one, it starts to get surreal. I'm coming to the ring, and I passed Mr. T and Michael Jordan.
Wow.
And when I start coming to the ring, and I pass those guys, I'm like, what? I mean, if I wanted to get a camera and go back, my head was spinning. But I'm going to tell you about Chavez. Chavez, I was trying to block his jab. And as I tried to block his jab, he threw a left hook right over the top and caught me with the left hook. And then I went down, and unfortunately, I did get up. But when I got up, I walked 3 steps this way, 3 steps that way, and maybe 2 steps this way and 2 steps that way. So maybe they did me a favor by stopping the fight before he really knocked me out.
Was he as great as they say?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I got to say, I fought Camacho, I fought Chavez, and I fought Meldrick. Chavez had the most power I ever felt in one punch.
All right.
So, yes, I got to say he was the greatest. And you got to remember, when I fought him, he was 95, 1-1 with 80 knockouts when I fought him.
Wow.
It was an amazing night. Obviously, I would like to, have that night over, but unfortunately, he great fighters. You make a mistake in baseball or even tennis, it's 15-love. You make a mistake in boxing and you're on your ass.
Right. One mistake and it's over. Hey, we
Yeah,
just had a
just
great
like
weekend.
that. There's no do-overs, and I would wish that moment back, but I would not trade the memories of fighting the great world champions at all. It's a great moment, and great day. Was but I ended up short. But I was able to fight 4 world champions in my career, and I'm very proud of it.
Right. Now, you fought in some great venues. I want to ask, what's your favorite venue to fight in?
Okay,
and
so
why?
here's the deal. 1994, I fought at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, opening night.
Right.
1995, I'm at the United Center in Chicago where the Bulls play.
Right.
And then in 1996, I'm in Madison Square Garden in New York, the Camacho, Riddick Bowe, all the undercard on that fight. You can't get any better than that, in my opinion. I think the MGM was my greatest moment.
Okay.
I mean, for going to an event, I enjoyed the Vegas. There's no place like Vegas. And then Madison Square Garden, in my opinion, is the most historic, the most famous arena
Say it
in
again
boxing.
for Smoking Jim.
So
Yes.
to have the Hall of Fame, International Boxing Hall of Fame, Madison Square Garden ring in there and saying that you fought in it is a tremendous honor.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, do you attend the Canastota event every June?
I try to go to the Canastota event almost every year. I hit all the Hall of Fames. I'll hit the National Boxing Hall of Fame. I'll hit the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame, the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame, the West Coast Boxing Hall of Fame, obviously the International Boxing Hall of Fame, Indiana's Boxing Hall of Fame. I try to hit it all because, to me, personally, it's about honoring fighters at the highest level. That's why I go. It has nothing to do. I don't care about all these other guys. They want to stay home and do their thing. And that's fine. I'm not trying to steal any thunder when I go out there. What I'm trying to do is spread the thunder around on my Facebook site so people can actually learn more about boxing, talk more about boxing, and promote it in a positive way. I went to the WBC convention this year. I went to the WBA convention this year. Now, I'm going to tell you from my perspective, from the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame's perspective, the greatest belts in the world was the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. So the WBA goes back to 1921. The WBC goes back to 1963. The IBF goes to 1983. And the WBO goes to 1988. Them are the biggest belts in history. All those presidents should be are coming in my Hall of Fame. If I got to go get them, pull them in here, whatever they do, all those guys will go in my Hall of Fame. It's great organizations do a great thing. Now I want to hear about all the negatives. Why they give this belt out, why they give that belt. Look, man, they give Jake Paul an honorary belt to motivating for his discipline, and he brings a different audience to the sports. Now I'm not going to get into whether it's good or bad for boxing. Obviously, it's good for Jake Paul, or he wouldn't be doing it. It's phenomenal. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like you got to give the guy credit. So that he's still in there fighting, and everybody talk about MMA boxing. I mean, Jake Paul's knocking all the MMA guys out, so it's helping boxing, I think.
I agree.
I mean, what are we going on about? It's like it's too much,
Now,
I enjoy going to the WBC. Jose Sulaiman, Mauricio Sulaiman goes to the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame in 2023 as well, which he should. One of the great presidents of all time.
We had a chance to interview him.
He was on our show, and we are with Vive Television Network, which is obviously connected to WBC. But anyway, our show was featured at the WBC conventions, I think, the past couple of years.
And it should be. Phenomenal. There's nobody who puts on a show like the WBC.
Right.
Now, I love the WBA. Don't get me wrong. The WBC, off the chain. Now, one thing I like about Guzman, the WBA, that guy tries to get everybody involved, and he had it in Orlando, Florida, where he has so much family. He's a family guy type, and he wants everybody to announce their name. He wants to try to get everybody recognition, and I like that about the WBA president. It was a 5-star event. It was amazing there in Florida this year, Orlando. And then, the other one was in Acapulco, Mexico. I'm in Acapulco, Mexico. Next thing you know, I'm running around with all the WBC world champions, Bazooka Lamone.
Yeah, I remember him, yeah.
Bazooka Lamone. And some of them you don't even recognize. Carlos Zalaganas. I mean, some of these guys you don't even recognize, so you have to get a double look. And that's why I like him to announce who's the champions. And Roberto Duran, one of my favorite fighters of all time. Roberto Duran, Kansas Stone.
You know, we got a nice email from someone saying that we bring up guys like Jack Johnson and we bring up Donnie Lalonde and all these guys. And on our show, we've had guys like Mike Weaver, Donnie Lalonde, Jerry Cooney, who's going to be on again in a couple weeks. We've had Suleiman. We've had Christy Martin. We've had a nice group of guys. We're going to get more.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, we want people to know who these great fighters were because there's so many guys. We try to promote them so people know it's not just about, you know, the guys who are fighting now. There was a history. I don't know. Boxing has just as great a history as any sport out there.
Absolutely.
And
here's Mike Hercules Weaver.
Do that.
Mike Hercules Weaver won the WBA title.
Yes,
he knocked out Big John Tate, Knoxville, Tennessee. 45 seconds left in the 15th round.
And he was getting beat the entire fight.
He was getting beat, yeah. And, you know, I seen Mike Weaver we picked him up at the airport, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I was all over him. He goes, "You're the only person I know that remembers that." I said, "It doesn't make any difference. There are some boxing fans out there, maybe 1%, that still remembers boxing at that level."
Well, that's why we promote. Our show is a variety show. We'll talk about the Fury Usyk fight, yes, but we'll also talk about March 30th or 31st when Weaver knocked out Tate. We'll talk about the fights, so people know. We talked about Carmen Basilio, so people know who these guys were. It bothers me when they don't know who those great. History. And then you mentioned guys like Chavez or Cooney, guys who didn't win the belt, who were damn good, that I think would be champions today. Which leads into my next question: your thoughts on boxing today compared to those great names that we just brought up minutes ago?
Look, man, you know, tomorrow, I always say it's like today's nobody's is tomorrow's somebody's, you know what I'm saying? And that's just the way it really goes. I hate to say it, Ryan Garcia. And I wanted to say something, touch on the Ernie Shavers. I remember I was going to get my picture with Ernie Shavers, and he looked at me straight in the eye and he goes, "Do you know anything about boxing, boy?" I said, "You was 74, 14, 1 draw, 68 knockouts." He said, "Come get your picture here, champ." And it was a great stuff, you know what I'm saying? But yes, the Ryan Garcias, the Davises, the Canelos, all these guys, there's going to be somebody fall right behind. Tomorrow's, you know, somebody, they'll become somebody. And unfortunately, it might not be what we want because every generation thinks they were the best. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, didn't you remember back in my day when I walked to school uphill in the snow?
No,
Don't you remember
right.
that?
You're right, but you also mentioned
they're starving everywhere, and you guys are wasting this food. No, so every story, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter. We'll think that the 80s. I mean, you can't beat Roberto Duran, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard. You know what I'm saying? The Fab Four. You can't beat those guys. You know, Benitez. You can't beat any of them guys. But there's another era coming up, and they'll consider them. It's almost like I'll get with Michael Spinks and talk about the 1976 team, right?
Right.
And I'll tell him that they're the best team ever. And then I get with Evander Holyfield, and I'll say, "Look, the 84 team was the best team."
Right. True.
But they both bring their
greatness. That's kind of my
There's
point.
no better team than 86 and 84, in my opinion.
You mentioned all these great names, but there's a group that we also touched on that didn't win belts. That are huge names. You mentioned Wepner, Shavers, Cooney. Tex Cobb is still, you know, we know who the hell he is. The fighters today.
And here's another thing.
The fighters.
The alternates. Mike Tyson had the greatest professional career. 50 wins. 44 knockouts. He probably had the greatest career. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated 15 times to my 0. So I'm just trying to tell you, he may be the greatest 84 Olympic guy that didn't even win the Olympic. He's an alternate. And he got beat out by Henry Tillman, who just had an average career. I mean, he still had a great career. Don't get me wrong. I'm taking that from Henry. But compared to Tyson, the career was phenomenal.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying. The guys that didn't have the belts back then, we still talk about them. Now, I think down the road, I don't know if we're going to talk about the number 1 or 2 contenders. I think we're just going to talk about the champions. Do you think so?
Yeah, we're going to talk about these
Reggie
guys.
Johnson, Michael Nunn.
Right, those guys. Yes.
One thing, this weekend we had 2 undisputed women's boxing matches in New York. Amanda Serrano and Alicia Bumgarner both won. What are your thoughts on women's boxing, and do you have any in the Indiana Hall of Fame? Any,
I do have Eva Jones-Young in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. I also have Christy Fulmer in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. Here's what I'm gonna tell them. Here's what I'm gonna say to them. Okay, I recognize them. I think they should be recognized. I think they should get some attention, but unfortunately, they will not get the attention that they think that they should get over a Mike Tyson or a Muhammad Ali or Tyson Fury. It's just not. It's just not going to still a man's world on that level.
Right.
But as far as getting attention and what they did for boxing, they absolutely should get respect, and I respect them for that. But I don't think it ever they won't get more attention than the big stars. You know what I'm saying? Right. Now they'll still get recognized, but it doesn't draw the same attention when they stop the car and if Mike Tyson gets on the airplane or gets at the airport, he's going to get more attention than anyone.
There's going to be a heckler trying to fight with him on an airplane. There'll be a heckler on the airplane.
Don't mess with Mike Tyson on the airplane either, because they'll F you up. You know,
right.
This guy has to be at some redneck party, and 3 or 4 buddies are buying him beer. He's a local celebrity in his hometown. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He's like, I was going to whip Mike Tyson. Oh, let me buy you another beer. There's a redneck party. You know what I'm saying? Right. This guy's got to be an idiot to mess with Mike Tyson.
Exactly. One thing about women's boxing right now, at least the best are fighting the best. That's what I respect. Why aren't we getting that with the men nowadays? I mean, Earl Spence, Bud Crawford. We've been waiting for years.
Boxing is still a business.
Right.
But you got to get. Here's one thing I will say about Oscar De La Hoya. Oscar De La Hoya fought everybody.
Yes,
he fought Bernard Hopkins. He did fight everybody.
Yes,
so the greats have to test themselves, dig down deep, and ask themselves who do they want to be and what kind of legacy they want to live. But if they don't want to do that type of work, then they won't get that same type of recognition. It's almost like Joe Gonzaga. What was he, 46-0 with 32 knockouts? Yeah. But he doesn't leave that impact that these guys leave them when they greats test the greats. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They'll always remember that. Hagler Hearns, how can that first round ever be beat in 1985?
That's true.
Will it ever be beat, you know?
So do you think it's more the promoters or the fighters not?
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I think I'm going to be honest with you. The cream always goes to the top. So it just depends on how you want to test yourself, and do you really believe in yourself that you can win that fight? I think some of them, are hesitant to give up their belt and think about, hey, I might get beat this time.
Now, final question for you, Craig. What's next for the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame?
Great class, 2000, May 18th, May 19th and 20th. We got Muhammad Ali coming in. We got Aaron Snowell coming in. We got Larry the Legend Donald coming in. We got David Tua coming in. We got all them guys coming into the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. We already put Russell Peltz in there. We put in the greatest promoters and the greatest fighters to ever live. So May the 19th and 20th, we're just going to knock it out of the park one more time.
Wow.
And we're going to bring in the greatness, and we're going to mix it up with some of the Indiana guys. And when you put in some greatness and mix up the great guys, we're going to bring back Michael Spinks this year. Corey Spinks goes in the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. He fought there 5 times. Yeah. So we're going to shine light on those guys, and we're going to share the thunder, and and just keep promoting everything. I'll promote all Hall of Fames this year. I'll hit the Atlantic City. I'll hit the Nevada with Rich Murat. Obviously the Atlantic City, Ray McCline. Ed Brophy does a great job. I got a great talk to Ed Brophy. He was at the WBC convention, so I had to give him a shout out. WBA convention, he went to the 2 ones. So I'm just there promoting, putting up positive stuff on my Facebook, and putting positive stuff on the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. If you get a chance, go to Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame on YouTube. Hit subscribe. I'm at 1,400 and some, people that are starting to follow it, and it's been a great ride, and I appreciate you guys putting me on your show today.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we're definitely going to promote the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame because you're a great guy and you do great things. And I'm sorry I missed you at Donnie's induction, but one of these days we're definitely going to hook up. We're going to nominate ourselves to the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. We're the best boxing show out there. We're the best
Welcome
boxing
to the
show
list.
out there. What's that? I didn't hear you.
Hey, look, man, I appreciate you guys so much.
All right, brother,
You guys want to
thank you.
hit me or tag me with anything with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything. You're more than anything. You could share my pictures. You could take any of my pictures. This is for the fans. That's what I tell them all. It's all for the fans. It's nothing to do with me. I never once tried to make a dime off YouTube. With my boxing, it was to spread the word. But God blesses everybody in certain different ways.
Well, you're the best. Like I said, we appreciate you, and we'll do whatever we can to promote your organization. And we'll have you on again.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, bring me on right after the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame because it's going to be a knockout. We're going to hit them with a left and a right.
You got it. We'll be on for
Yeah.
sure. All right, brother.
All
Thank
right,
you
Craig.
again. Thank you. Great job.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
going to
you.
say one last thing.
Yes, sir.
I once ran through a hurricane and didn't even get a drop on me. Ali.
Ali.
23.
All right.
All right, man.
Thanks
Craig.
again, brother. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Oh, he was great.
Okay, when we come back, we have the Boxing Authorities news and, of course, the boxing mailbag. So come on back to the Boxing Authorities. Welcome back to the Boxing Authorities. We hope you enjoyed that great interview with Craig Houck. We certainly did. He was a great guest.
Yes.
We'll definitely have him on and check out the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. Shakur Stevenson, 1909 knockouts, will fight Suichiro Yoshino for the WBC. He's ranked number 5. He's 16-0 with 12 knockouts. Luther, your thoughts on that fight?
Well, listen, you guys know how I feel about Shakur Stevenson, Newark's finest. Great talent, great speed, great master of distance. And he's going to put on another showcase. I don't think he'll get his 10th knockout, but he's going to dominate this fight. And he's right in line possibly for the undisputed title against the winner of Lomachenko and Devin Haney if they ever sign a contract. Exciting fighter. He was just at the fights this weekend with Richardson Hudson, was front and center with his fiance, a rapper, and
Please
I
don't,
saw him holding the gloves for Hutchins.
Yeah.
Listen, he loves the sport. He's an excellent fighter. He's going to just put on another show, man. He's my top 10 pound for pound fighters, and he's just going to continue to rise and rise and rise.
Well, you know I have him retired and undefeated, so you know what I think of him. Smoking Jim, your thoughts?
Here comes the hate.
Well, nobody on the planet loves Japanese fighters more than me, but this guy
Name 10.
horrible. I mean, he has no balance. He has no power. You talk about a hand-picked opponent. I mean, this is a
This
guy.
is his first fight at 135,
Listen,
Jim.
this guy's terrible. He's a terrible Japanese fighter. I wouldn't even claim him. No power. This is perfect for
He got 12 KOs.
yeah, but he
Against
can't
who?
knock nobody out. He guy hit like he's got pillows on his hands. He has no
Jim.
powers. Is
Now
no balance.
You gonna have
and-
Japan against you, Jim.
I'm just saying, people in Japan knows I like Japanese movies and Japanese fighters, But this guy's terrible. Hand-picked opponent for Stevenson. It'd be an easy fight for him.
But what you always say, you fight who's available. You got to fight.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Hey,
They
listen,
give me this.
Pitbull Cruz, or who I call Poodle Cruz, was ordered to fight him by the WBC, and he didn't take
You
the
don't
fight.
like Pitbull?
He was supposed to fight. He was
Do you
ordered.
not like
he
Pitbull?
was ordered
you
by
like
the
him, you just didn't fight
WBC to Shakur Stevenson and didn't take that fight. When you do something like that,
Well, you
fall
just
out
heard
of my
from
list.
the Indiana Boxing Hall of Fame. They told you quit talking women boxing. So
No, he said put some respect on their
Yeah, he
name,
said
which
keep
you
your
don't
mouth
do.
shut.
He misheard.
Right.
He misheard.
Right.
On the undercard, Jared Big Baby Anderson, 13 wins, 13 knockouts, will fight an unnamed fighter. I shouldn't have said unknown.
Big
Unnamed
Baby.
fighter. But he has been talking about, not this fight, maybe after this fight, fighting a Joe Joyce, fighting Mahmoudov, fighting the big boys.
Yes,
He's
yes,
serious. And the
yes.
thing I like about Big Baby is he is what, Luther? He's fighting.
And he's
he don't
active.
disappear.
He's
Right.
active.
He's
he
not
just fought a
missing
couple months ago, and he's
Right.
back in the ring. The next American heavyweight
Not a
champion,
year and a half away.
Jared
Nothing.
Big Baby Anderson, the real Big Baby Claudio. He's the man out of Ohio. Jim continues to hate on him, but all he does is put on a show. Look at this. Power. He destroyed Jerry Forrest, who went toe-to-toe with a lot of top names.
Jim's boy.
I love his style. He comes in. Sometimes he dresses like Jim.
Oh, look at that.
Look at this.
Nice.
Watch the knockout. Look at the short,
Look at
great
the block.
defense. Great inside fighting. Look at the short left hook. Ooh!
He's
Drops
improving.
him.
He is improving technically.
How can you hate on this man, Jim? Look at this.
every fight?
Boom. Nice power to his left. Boom. Just took the guy off his feet, destroyed him, knocked him out cold. Jim, put some respect on this man's name. Look at this. Almost broke the man's leg with that overhand right.
Smoking?
The next champ.
Well, I'm glad he's still running from Richard Torres. But,
Oh, Jim, stop,
listen,
Jim. Stop.
Is this how you spell his name? Jar?
Jared.
Okay, Jarhead. Listen.
I got 2 R's. I got it right.
It's Jared.
All right, Jarhead. Listen, he's a mama's boy.
Jim,
Again,
they're not going to start
fighting
this.
in
So am I.
April, they're
Jim-
going to drag somebody in to fight him. How can you?
And how
have
about
a
that? He's going to fight. How about the
unnamed
guy
opponent?
Torres fought?
He's not going. He's going to fight a guy
He's
better
gonna
than
fight
Torres.
better.
Fight.
How can you have an unnamed opponent in April? But like I said,
Everybody's
I like,
scared of him.
because he's stepping up his game. He's going to fight. But if he gets in there with a real man,
Oh,
Jim, he's the next
I'm
American
gonna say
heavyweight
this.
champion.
I'm
we
going to
know
say
if he has
this.
the heart.
Yes,
he's a
I've
mama's
seen-
boy.
I'm going to say this
We
So
about
know
you
he's a
say-
pimp.
so you say.
We know he's a pimp.
So you say.
And we know he got.
You should like him then, Jim.
We know he got jail issue clothing. So
I'm going to say this about him. I was critical for the first seconds of his fights when he does southpaw. That's when he gets hit. When he goes orthodox, he is damn good. He's improved technically, mechanically. I like when he moved back from the punch and he just didn't admire his work. Throws a punch. I like how he blocks. I like his defense. We know Forrester caught him a couple times and he didn't budge.
can he get
Great
away
chin.
from that left uppercut?
Oh,
Of
sure.
course.
I'll tell you what. I
Can
see
he get
him.
away from that?
You know what? If I was his, and I know it won't happen so soon. I would love to see him fight Torres, but Torres' people won't
Torres
put him
is
against
too- yeah,
him.
he's too-
He's not ready.
he's
He's
too
not ready
green.
for Big Baby.
He's not ready.
Could Big Baby beat Rocky Marciano?
No.
Then he can't beat Torres.
But Torres isn't Rocky
Come on,
Marciano.
he's not
Oh!
Can I beat Michael Jordan 1-on-1?
No.
Because I ain't.
Jim, you got to put some respect. I don't know what Cleveland, Ohio's done to you.
Can-
Big Baby, he
I
looks
think
great.
he will be a
He
plus
checks
to
all
the
all
heavyweight
the
division
boxes.
because he can fight and he's a personality.
Yes,
and
he
he's
is.
going to sell tickets. I think he's a plus.
He ain't sold none yet.
Oh, he's doing. Everybody knows who he is. He's a name.
He's making his name. He's on
He's got
ESPN
13
on a
wins and
regular-
people know.
Is he more popular than Big Baby?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, 'cause Big Baby
Big
disappeared.
Baby's known as what? A drug cheat.
Not to me.
Big Baby
I
Anderson
like
He can
is
sell
known
tickets,
as
though.
the
He
Big
can
Baby
sell
Anderson known
Yes,
as the
he
next
can.
heavyweight
and he
champion.
messed up. He's got to get back, which I'm a little disappointed because he was fighting regularly. He's got to get back in the
Who
gym.
you
He's gotta
talking
get-
about?
Big Baby Miller.
Oh, come
he's got to
on,
fight.
guys.
Because I
Listen,
still
his
think he's
reputation
valuable.
is- his
He's valuable to
reputation
the
is
division.
done.
He's
His
valuable to the
reputation is
division.
trash.
How come you guys always throw shade on me because I don't back American heavyweights?
You don't.
And I'm backing Richard Torres.
That's the first one you've backed in years, Jim. All
But-
you do
but-
is slander them. You slandered Wilder. You slandered Big Baby Anderson. Finally, you got one you like because he's not black.
Real quick, if you were the promoter of Big Baby Anderson, who'd you put him in against? Not this fight. Fight after this.
I'd like to see him get a Michael Hunter, one of those guys on his name, Oscar Rivas. You know, those guys in the top 5, or even, a Joseph Parker, Joe Joyce.
Joe Joyce.
I
Can
think
he
he's
beat
ready
FA?
for those
Can he
guys.
beat FA?
Yes. Oh, yes.
He destroys
Yes,
FA.
yes.
FA even
I'd
says
fight-
FA even says in sparring, Jerry Big Baby
Daniel
Anderson
Dubois.
is getting the best. Oh, I'd love to see that.
And
fight.
you get a WBC regular.
But
I'm
I
sorry,
don't think Daniel
WBA regular.
Dubois people won't take that
I
fight.
would pick FA.
Against
Against
Big
who?
Baby
Yeah,
Anderson?
Big
They,
Baby.
they've sparred already.
Why don't
right?
you like him for real? For real?
No, I love him.
You
He's
do
a mama's
not.
boy.
You
I
do
don't
not.
like
Well,
mama's
what's that
boy.
guy
How do you
do?
know
He
what
can
is that?
punch. When he punched that guy, the guy.
So there's never been a mama's boy who's been heavyweight champion?
I've never
You
liked
don't even
anybody
know that.
that come in the ring as a pimp.
Well, that's
I've
how
never
you
liked
dress.
that.
You don't like the way you dress, Jim? People say that's how you dress.
Quickly.
I think I seen him out in the street with that same outfit Big Baby came in with.
Quickly,
And he was
Keyshawn
coming
Davis.
to a party that I was at,
If he shows up.
if he shows up.
Okay, you know what? We're going to do a quick mailbag. Jim from Braddock.
Keyshawn Davis.
Let's just stay with this. Keyshawn Davis. Yeah, Keyshawn Davis. He's going to fight an undercard as
I
well.
like Keyshawn Davis.
He's
I
got
think
it
he's
all.
a player at 140.
Yep.
Silver medalist. I thought he could have beat Cruz in the Olympics. But I like his style. He's aggressive.
Technically,
fighting,
he's good.
and he talks a lot. He's called out Devin Haney. He's
Technically-
called out Frank Martin.
He's not championship
He's
material.
hell yeah. He's 7-0, but he looks like a guy who's about 15, 17, 20 and 0
only
because of
20,
his
only
technique.
in his early
You see what I'm
20s.
saying?
Yeah, only
He's
in
a
his
veteran.
early
He looks
20s.
like he's 40. Don't
He can fight.
I
can
know what
fight.
he says. It's
Sorry
his
we're
20s.
missing the bell bag tonight. We had a great guest. But as always, and don't forget, we're going to have Jerry Cooney on soon. As
Yes.
always, we hope you enjoy our show as much as we enjoy bringing it to you. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Boxing Authorities.